Hey again, once again, this is Phyllis Cowan warring in the spirit with Dr. Love. And I am coming to you today because something's been laying on my heart very heavily. I have become addicted to TikTok. Yes, I have. But what I have learned on TikTok is that it's a lot of people hurting out there. There's a lot of people going through depression. It's a lot of men leaving women with their children, probably just the opposite as well. I didn't see anything like that, but I want to address the concerns of the many, and that is the men and the women and the children. The first thing we need to do is always be humbled and give thanks in everything. Sometimes we don't see the blessing. You know, the old saying, you can't see the forest for the trees. Sometimes we just can't see the blessing and everything that's going on with us and around us. And we need to acknowledge God in all things. That's number one. I'm not saying that it's not going to be painful. I'm sitting there, I've sat there, I can't minister to you about something I haven't personally experienced myself or am experiencing. But I want to tell you, there is joy in the morning. And the morning may not be tomorrow. It may not be next month. It may not even be next year. But it comes when you least expect it. And it only comes then because you have released everything over to God. Sometimes we're in relationships. Sometimes men are in abusive relationships just as well as women. There's no difference. He has no right to hit her. She has no right to hit him or talk to each other condescendingly. It doesn't matter. You owe each other the same respect that you would give God in your relationship. Okay? So when we look at our relationships and we're overlooking the obvious, and then when they finally do something and it slaps us in our face and we're like, wow, you saw it coming. Maybe you didn't want to accept it, but you saw it coming. Even though it hurt to have the experience, the pleasure is getting over the pain and realizing that that situation wasn't worth you because you deserve much more than what you're accepting. Sometimes we accept things in our relationships that we really don't want. Nobody wants to be in a relationship where they have to feel like they're a child. You want to feel like your significant other is your equal. No one wants to be in a relationship where they're being spoken to in a condescending manner. No one, no man, no woman, not even a child. It's not appropriate to speak to a child in that respect. If you're in a relationship with a significant other, whatever you have it together. That person should not have to ask you for money for their nails, money to get their hair done, or money to go grocery shopping. It should be equality in the relationship. If my name is on the account, if we're married, it should be on the account. We should be sharing things equally. And provided there are other entities that come into this in terms of respect. Some people don't know how to manage money. Okay, well, that's something you work out before you get into the relationship or the marriage, whatever it is. However, once you're there in that prospective relationship, you're equal. There's no his, there's no hers, there's no hers and hers, there's no his and his. It's ours. Everything is ours. And we should respect everything as ours. It's not his responsibility to take out the garbage. It's not her responsibility to wash the dishes. It's not her responsibility to cook or run the errands. It doesn't matter whether or not you're a housewife or you're someone that's out in the work field or you're working from home or you're a house husband and you're out in the work field or you're working from home. It doesn't matter. The responsibility is still the same. The respect level is still the same. Women, men, when you find yourself dating a person and you see that that person is being disrespectful and he has no honor, no respect, no regard for his own relationships with his family members, his children, or anyone of the opposite sex, okay, whatever your relationship is, if the continuity is going to be the same with that person, whether it be his mother or his father, Or if you're dating a man, it's going to be the way he treats the man. If it's dating a woman, it's going to be the way he or she treats the woman. The continuity is going to be the same. You can't expect that person to be good to their mother and not necessarily and be good to you. Or the figure, I should say, whatever that father figure or mother figure is. I know there are exceptions to the rules. Sometimes we have relationships where there's a lot of resentment and people have a tendency to lash out because of that. But I want you to be mindful. I don't care how many children you have, how many years you've been together, it doesn't mean you're supposed to stay with that person. Sometimes in a relationship, it takes for that other person to make that move that you may not have even thought you should have had in your life, but down that road, I guarantee you, it's going to be the best thing that ever happened to you. And I'll say this, I got divorced. This is my third marriage. And I got divorced the second time I got married. First time I got married, I had children and got married. It was just one of those things, if you get pregnant, you have. The second time, I was dating someone, and I don't like this guy. I'm not feeling this. I don't think this is going to work for me. And I gave it a try. Got into a relationship with the person. Got married. Excuse me. We ended up divorcing. Because you can't change people. He was a little older than I am. And sometimes when people are in relationships with you, they think they can change you, or you're going to get better, or you're going to, I can make you this, I can change you to that, I can conform you. You can't conform a person. If you feel that way about that person going into a relationship, it's only fair that you be honest with them and tell them whatever it is that you're feeling. But because he was older than I am, and he had a child that was near my age, he made mention of the fact that when we planned on getting married later down the road, before we married, you could never be a mother to my child because you all are too close in age. Probably 10 years, 15 years, probably the same thing with he and I don't know, I don't remember. But it was a lot of years. That was my wake-up call. I didn't hear it. I'd heard it, but I didn't acknowledge it. I'm saying when I didn't hear it, I didn't really hear it. It didn't sink in. Sometimes that's what happens with us. We get it, but we don't get it because we're not taking the time to really sit back and analyze it. We have to analyze it. Take time at the end of your day to analyze your relationships and see where they are. Make notes if you have to, journal. Take some time for you and really, put that in perspective. If you have to go back and address it the next day, it's better for you to get it out the air and be on one accord than for you to just let it, go over your shoulder and say forget about it. And then it comes up again and comes up again, and one day it just kind of explodes in you because you didn't, take care of the problem or get some kind of fulfillment of an understanding of what was really happening in that relationship when you had that occur the first time. So nonetheless, the day I got ready to get married, I stood up in my horse and carriage in this elaborate wedding that was very inexpensive. And I stood there and my uncle said to me, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "Nothing. He said, "Well, you act like something's wrong." I said, "What do you mean?" "You act like you don't want to get married." I said, "I don't." And he said, "But after you spent all this money?" And I said, "That's exactly why I want to do it." Wrong reason. Some of us get there and we do that too. Or the man you find out he's on drugs the night before or the day of. And you go through it because, okay, he was this way all this time. And then, okay, no. It's a wake-up call. God is trying to show you something. He's trying to tell you something. But we're not paying attention. I didn't pay attention. So I'm saying to you ladies, men, if these significant others are doing the things that they're doing and you acknowledging that it's inappropriate, and of course, you wouldn't do it and you wouldn't want your daughter or your son or your mother or your sister to be in that relationship or to accept maybe the things that you're accepting is not appropriate or acceptable because you're experiencing it either. So it's time for you. I'm not saying leave him or her. Pray about it. Meditate. Give it over to the Lord. He will work it out. Trust me. Now, I went through a divorce. It was painful. Why? Because I felt like I was a failure. When people go through divorces, sometimes that's how women feel. Sometimes that's how men feel. Men and women are no different. We have feelings, and men, they hurt deep and they hurt hard. I'm not saying women don't, but it's different. They fall late, we fall early. They fall deep, they fall hard. We fall immediately and we expect so much. They're watching and they see and they're testing. We don't do that. You have to acknowledge who you are in a relationship, You can't be in a relationship with someone else if you're not in one with yourself. Never give up who you are. Now back to the divorce. I got divorced, I was hurt, I was devastated because I felt like, oh my God, I am a failure. I didn't feel like I had done anything wrong. Honestly, I didn't. I felt like, why did I engage myself for this time period to be in a relationship that I felt like I didn't want to be in before I even married the person? But I gave it my best shot. And because I gave it my best shot, that's what made me so devastated, so hurt, so unfulfilled. But when I got over my pain, when I got over my hurt, when I got refocused on my direction, and that was for me to know God for myself. I mean, really have a relationship with him. I mentioned before in my other segment that it took my relationship, my divorce, for me to have a relationship with God, to know him. See, you could think you know him, but you don't have that relationship. And that's when I found God. And that's when I found my calling on my life. And I understood the direction, the purpose that God had for me. And I toyed with it for a long time. And then one day, I released it. I literally left and went to another state to live, to start a new life. I didn't like it in that state, Mississippi. And I came back and I had the most difficult time. And I worked as a respiratory therapist. And I didn't want to stay there, didn't want to necessarily be here, couldn't find anything. I don't think I had passed my boards at the time. But I reinvented myself. I did everything I could. I went back to school. I put my daughter in college. I put my son through high school. I struggled because I could not get back into my field. And I was always questioning. I had mentioned to you before that I asked God to help me go through this until I raised my children. And he did that. And I got what I asked for, so to speak. So I'm saying to you, beloved, in all things, acknowledge God and he will direct your path. It was then that I let go and I let God that I found a new direction. And he allowed me to do something new. I went back to school and I got my bachelor's, I got my master's. And I got refocused. And I became an encourager and a mentor to my children because I wanted them to do the same. I was no longer hurting because I felt like I had a loss or I felt inadequate. I was loving me. And I was loving me for the first time in my life because I had always been somebody's mother raising a child. I had always been, of course, I'm somebody's daughter and so forth and so on, but I was always somebody's mother and I was always somebody's wife. And it was the first time that I wasn't anybody's wife. I had a son going into college and a daughter coming out, and I was finally, just loving me. And I got so caught up in loving me that I met the man that I'm married to now. And I turned around, I looked at him one day and I said, how did I get here? How did I even get here? I wasn't trying to get here. Trust me. I was dating, and I had a day that I was dating a different person, not on an intimate level, but I was letting them know I'm only having fun. If you fall in love, it's on you. I'm not trying to be cruel and mean, but I'm not trying to be serious. I'm just having fun because I'm trying to love me. And I did that. And then when I met him, everything that I was doing, I wouldn't let anybody pick me up. Then no one ever knew where I lived. All these things happened. And it was my mother that made me acknowledge the fact that this was who I was supposed to be with, because he was doing everything that a husband is supposed to do for a wife, but yet I wasn't his wife. So I want to tell you, you deserve so much more than what you're settling for. There's no perfect relationship. I can't sit here and tell you I have a perfect relationship. I'm not perfect. Neither is my husband perfect. There's nobody that's perfect. But I love my husband, just as you probably love your husband or your wife or your significant other. But I want you to keep in mind, no matter how much you love them, God loves them most. And he or she was their child before he even put him in your life. Whatever your concern is, whatever your issue is, don't deal with someone acting like Dr. Jekyll and you don't know when Mr. Hyde is coming. Or he's Mr. Hyde and you don't know when Mr. or she is Dr. Jekyll is coming. Don't you deserve better than that? If he left you with 3 kids or 4 kids, don't you know you're going to survive and you're going to make it? Don't you know that God is your source? He's your supply. He's your all in all. He's going to make provisions. He's your Jehovah Jireh, your provider. He's going to make provisions for you. Everything you need is already taken care of, but you got to trust him. Don't sit up and moan and groan about your situation. I bet you, in my heart of hearts, I don't know who I'm talking to, but I guarantee you, you know they weren't worth your time and your effort. And you gave much more than they were deserving of you. And you can always do bad by yourself. So don't have a pity party, baby. It's time to celebrate. You know why you're celebrating? You're celebrating you becoming the victorious you that you are meant to be, that you were anointed to be. Take time and read your word. Pray. Talk to God. He sits closer than a friend. He's with you all the time. If you're fussing and cussing, stop. Stop complaining. Find something good to be grateful for every day, every moment, in all things. And when you start turning all of that negative energy into positive energy, you're going to grow out of this. And you're going to be the victorious man, woman of God that he has anointed you to become. And you too will have a testimony that you'll be able to share with someone to bring them out of this darkness that they may be in during this sad time for a lot of us while we're staying at home, sheltering at home. It's difficult. It's difficult. It's difficult for women that once were away from the home, or the man was once away from the home, And now you all are sharing that space. And excuse me, I got sinus problems, but sharing that space that you're not accustomed to sharing, or maybe you could just tolerate that person because you knew they were gone most of the day and now they're home for a short period of time. But the point that I'm getting to understand is that love conquers all things, a multitude of sins. If you learn how to love, forgive, and love some more, and love on you, and love the situation, nurture it in a positive way. And when you do that, everything is going to roll in divine order because God is love. You're love. And I want you to be the best loving person you can possibly be. All right? Until we meet again. This is Phyllis Cowan. That's Dr. Love. I love you. God bless.